before I start, let me introduce myself also, right? And then, what I do in today's session is I'll tell you what the business analyst role is about and what is it that you need to know. What are the kind of skills and knowledge a business analyst, and what we will cover in this course. Right? So that's a basic. Yeah. So that's agenda of this session, right? So yeah, so I have around 10 years of experience. So working in the industry, I've been teaching for the past 3 years, right? And so this is a mature course now because it's evolved over time, and for the last 3 years, I think after a year or so, it got stabilized, and we're ensuring that the details of what is required for a fresher or a person who is actually getting onto a business analyst role is perfectly covered in this course, right? So the focus of this course is specifically on onboarding people from other industries or freshers, rather than taking certifications, right? Because the two types of trainings which are available, right? So the one which helps you take the certifications, right? So that's at an advanced level, but we focus on the fundamentals and ensure that the people who are actually getting into a business analyst role are are onboarded, and they know, and we teach them what is required in the course, right? So yeah, so getting back to the course, what we'll do is I'll tell you what the business analyst role is about and what we would cover in this course, and then I think you'll be in a better position to decide and take a decision on whether to the next steps, rather. Yeah. So this role basically summarizes what this slide basically summarizes what a business is about, right? So you have to tell the two most important tasks of a business analyst. So that would be the requirement and elicitation and analysis and documentation. So you need to understand the requirements from the various stakeholders, and then you need to analyze and document them, right? So there are a few techniques and methods which have evolved over time for both elicitation, right? It's not just going and interviewing your customer, right? So there are around 10 ways in which you can understand the requirements, right? So depending on the context, you have to pick the right one, and then and use those techniques to understand the requirements. After that, there are a few frameworks which have come up, which helps you in analyzing and documenting your requirements, right? So the most popular one being the use cases, right, which is UML based, right? So we'll learn the various techniques in which we can actually document the requirements, right? So the final deliverable coming out of this elicitation and analysis and documentation is called as a business requirements document, right? So so a business analyst plays a critical role in getting this document out, and that's a phase in which business analyst plays a significant role, right? Apart from that, when the project initiation is done and the project manager is preparing the overall project plan, right? You would contribute for the requirements related plan, right? So you need to ensure that the right frameworks are in place, the project plan is prepared for your requirements related activities, right? And all your stakeholders are identified. So there are a few things which you need to do as part of the requirements planning. We'll learn about that, right? As a business analyst, you also have to ensure that the communication between the various the stakeholders is clearly managed, and we learn how to do that. So it's a small session, but nevertheless, you need to know those you need to have that knowledge of how to manage the communications in the project, right? And then as a business analyst, you'd also be involved in the testing of the system, right? So which we call it as a solution assessment and validation. What you do as part of this is, you would coordinate the testing, ensure that the the testing process is validated. So there would be the role of a business analyst is to guide that the testing is comprehensive and complete, right? So we learn about how do what all we do as part of the testing process. Basically learn what is the overall testing process and where do you fit in into those scheme of things, right? So while these 5 areas are normal in a project, right? So there is another complex activity called as enterprise analysis, so which is generally the starting activity. Now most of the time, or till now, we have assumed that the project is available and then the budgets are allocated and then we are executing the project, right? But when a company or an organization wants to take up new projects, right? So how are they conceptualized, and then how do you ensure that you do your due diligence, identify projects, then build a business case for it, and finally get the budgets and everything, right? So these series of activities would fall under the enterprise analysis, right? So though this is the first step, this is the most complex task, and this is actually evolving into a different role called as an enterprise architect, right? So there are even certifications, separate certifications for that, right? So that's because that's the most complex task, right? So that's not really expected out of a normal business analyst, right? Unless you have that tremendous experience in that particular industry, and then you understand the complete end-to-end systems within the organization, right? You actually won't be in a position to contribute to that kind of activities, right? So my focus is not on that session. So I'll just give you an overview about that enterprise analysis, and you'll have a basic understanding about it, because it's more like a future roadmap for a business analyst role rather than your current role, and the rest of the 5 would cover in detail, right? So again, yeah. So when I'm saying these 6 knowledge areas, where are they coming from, right? So it is actually defined by an international organization called IIBA, which stands for International Institute of Business Analysis. So it's more like a standards, it's more like a recommended body which oversees this business analyst profession, right? So they have published a guide called as a business analyst book of knowledge, which oversees this profession and tells that these are the roles and responsibilities of a business analyst, or these are the 6 knowledge areas which a business analyst should possess, right? So our course is aligned to that, right? So we are aligned to those 6 knowledge areas, right? And I would cover in detail, the course would cover in detail each of these 6 knowledge areas. And before that, because most of the students who come from various other industries or with zero IT background, right? I spent a couple of sessions rather on giving an industry overview and then the role of a business analyst in that, right? So we'll understand how organizations are, what is the organization structure of, specifically on the IT side, and then when a new project is formed, what is the overall structure of the project, right? Where do you fit in as a business analyst in that? Then the various software development lifecycle models, right? What happens, what are the various stages in a software development lifecycle project? All those details would be covered so that you have a better understanding about what is a typical project, who are the various other stakeholders in it, what is your role in that. That ensure that you have a baseline understanding about software development, and then we'll actually get into one of these 6 knowledge areas what I have just mentioned about, right? So yeah, as mentioned, the course is for specifically for a business analyst in trying to get into a IT project implementation, right? and the course is aligned to IIBA's Business Analyst Book of Knowledge. Right? So we are covering the 6 knowledge areas what a business analyst needs to cover. Right? So yeah, some more details about each one of those activities of what we cover. Right? So as part of the planning, we'll identify the stakeholders. Right? Then plan for the requirement activities. Ensure that the frameworks are in place. Right? As part of the illustration, we'll cover the 10 models of in which you can understand the requirements and in what context would each one of them would be relevant. Right? Then, as part of the requirement analysis and documentation, we'll primarily focus on structured analysis and object-oriented analysis, which is UML based. Your use cases are one of the UML diagrams, and we'll learn about the communication plan, what are the various artifacts of communication, the modes of communication, right? And understand the overall system integration testing and user acceptance testing process, and what is your role as a business analyst in each of these areas. Right? To end with it, I'll give you an overview about enterprise analysis, which basically involves identifying opportunities, then building a business case for it, and ensuring that they fit into your overall business architecture. Right? So that's kind of activities. So it's more like an overview session about what is it that we need to do, right? And yeah, any other topics which you are interested, we can look at that. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to cover. The focus of the course is more on people who are actually planning to move into a business analyst role rather than certifications. Because IIBA also gives certifications, but that's again for our experienced folks. So you need to have some years of experience to actually take the certification. You should have worked as a business analyst and then for a few years, and then only you can actually take that certification, right? So the focus is more on to get into a business analyst role, right? And yeah, as part of the training material, it's all matured, and I have everything up on a drive. All the presentations what you use for the sessions. Then we have a lot of reading material, additional reading material for you to further read and then understand things. And we have a template section wherein we cover we have a template which basically tells, guides you with what are all the deliverables which a business analyst would provide, and it acts as a reference for you, right? So that's all what I want to say. So unless you have questions, I think we're good here. Yeah. So what do you get?
Like I said, I'm looking, to be very domain specific, to be in healthcare. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I'm looking for in my trainer is who has actually worked on, healthcare. I mean, and again, I know healthcare is not a huge thing in India. I mean, there is no insurance. There's nothing there.
Yes.
So, in your agenda, I'm looking at it. There is no domain material, domain-specific material in there. It's very, I would say, like you said, it's domain independent. So yeah. Do you touch bases on either of those? Or?
No, I do not cover the domain, because see, I focus onto the business analyst role per se, and this role could be across industries, right? So whatever skills and knowledge which you require as a business analyst are actually domain agnostic. Right? So they're not dependent on a particular domain. So if it works for a banking industry, it would work for healthcare. It would also work for your financial services or your insurance, your retail. Right? The same techniques, skills and knowledge which you'll gain as part of this course would be applicable for IT projects across industries. Mm-hmm. Right? So as a business analyst, again, if you look at the role of a business analyst, right? So it clearly tells us what is it that you need to do, right? Mm-hmm. So, out of these 6 knowledge areas, right? So a domain understanding would help you in this requirement elicitation. So when you are interacting with the clients or your SMEs, right? So you'd be in a better position to understand the requirements and domain understanding, right? So if you take some complex tasks like maybe in a financial services industries, you're talking about options accounting or your some wealth management kind of portfolio analysis kind of requirements, right? So it's difficult for a person who completely is unaware of that industry to understand the requirements. And definitely, if you have a background in that financial services industry, it's easier for you to understand the requirements, right? Similarly, for you, since you are again preparing for the healthcare industry, right? It's easier for you to get into a business analyst role in the healthcare industry. Having said that, it will never stop you to get into a different industry if you actually complete this course.
Have you ever worked in the healthcare industry?
I work in the banking system.
I'm
focused on the banking. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. So, but yeah. So if you again look at it, so I don't really cover any domain specific things in a training. Business analyst training, because we are looking at working into a business analyst role across industries, right? So the domain specific knowledge is good to have, right? And depending on the type of projects, right? Some of them don't even make it mandatory that you really need to understand that domain, right? So as a business analyst, again, you don't really need to know the industry, but it's good. It's a good thing if you actually understand the domain, right? It helps you in understanding the requirements easily.
So I'm sorry to extend on this question, but if I needed some information, let's say for some reason I wanted to kind of get knowledge on both domain, will you be willing to teach the banking domain? How hard is it?
That's actually a really big area in banking, right? I mean, if you actually want me to cover the fundamentals, right? We can cover that as a part of a different course, but not many people would prefer that. So they would, during your if you actually complete this course, I think that should be good enough, right? So what I suggest is, you complete this course, you'll have a better understanding of what exactly a business analyst will be doing in an IT project. And then since your focus is onto the healthcare, I would suggest focus on that particular industry first, right? So I don't think looking at too many industries and then understanding the basics would anyway help you. Right. So because the kind of projects which comes in, we don't really know what is the kind of the functionality or the features they are offering. Right. So it could be a project in the risk and compliance area of banking, or it could be in your online or your mobile banking application. Right. So the gamut of or the scope of IT applications within banking itself is so vast that we cannot cover that as a single course, right?
Okay.
And if you have actually looking at multiple industries, it's, the problem is multifold now.
Okay.
Yeah?